stop scrolling and listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal will completely change the way you see attraction, relationships, and human desire. This is not the usual advice you see online. Forget what you think you know about love, charm, or attraction, because 99% of people are blind to the truth I'm about to expose. By the end of this video, your perspective will be completely transformed and you'll see things that most people never even consider. I'm going to uncover the hidden forces that explain why younger women are drawn to older men. And trust me, it has nothing to do with what society tells you. This is raw, psychological, and shocking, but it's real. These are the invisible triggers that drive attraction, and they operate on levels most people aren't even aware exist. Once you understand this, your understanding of desire, connection, and relationships will never be the same. If you've ever wondered why some men seem to have an almost magnetic pull, why certain connections feel effortless while others falter, or why younger women seem inexplicably drawn to men with experience, presence, and confidence, this video will explain everything. You're about to learn secrets that go beyond surface appearances, beyond money, beyond looks. These are truths about emotional security, wisdom, confidence, mastery, and the subtle ways humans respond to depth. I promise you, if you stay with me until the end, you'll see patterns that no one else is talking about. You'll gain insight into human behavior, and you'll understand the invisible rules that govern attraction. This isn't just knowledge, it's power. Knowledge that can transform the way you approach relationships, the way you understand connection, and the way you influence others without even trying. So watch closely, stay present, and prepare yourself. By the time this video is over, what you think you knew about desire, attraction, and connection will be shattered, replaced with truths that are more shocking, more profound, and far more useful than anything you've ever heard before. Let's start with something most people don't talk about openly, but it's fundamental to human attraction: emotional security. When we think about relationships, especially the kind that draw younger women to older men, it's tempting to reduce it to surface level explanations: money, status, appearance. But that's only scratching the surface. The real deeper force at play is emotional stability. It's that calm in the middle of chaos, the steady hand that doesn't waver when life throws curveballs, the kind of presence that feels unshakable. Women, consciously or subconsciously, are wired to detect this. They can feel it in the way a man moves, the way he speaks, the way he responds to stress and uncertainty. Emotional security isn't taught, it's lived, it's born out of experience, and that experience comes with age. Think about it. An older man has already faced disappointment, loss, rejection, and failure. He has navigated heartbreak, handled professional and personal challenges, and endured the kind of life lessons that younger men are only beginning to encounter. This accumulation of experience creates a quiet confidence, a sense of groundedness that younger women find irresistible. It's not loud or showy. It doesn't need to be. It's a subtle energy, but it resonates on a deep, almost instinctual level. When a woman senses that a man has been through the storms of life and come out intact, she feels safe. She feels that connection can exist without chaos, without manipulation, without unnecessary drama. That is the magnetic pull of emotional security. And this is where the psychology becomes fascinating. Emotional security activates a part of human desire that is rarely discussed in mainstream culture. We are drawn to those who make us feel safe, not because it's convenient, but because it signals the ability to form a reliable bond. Trust is built faster, intimacy is deeper, and the connection feels authentic. Younger women who are still navigating their own growth recognize this instinctively. They seek the presence of someone who has mastered their own inner world because it allows them to relax, to open up, and to explore the depths of their own emotions without fear of instability. In many ways, this is less about age itself and more about the mastery of self that often comes with age. Now, let's be clear, emotional security doesn't mean perfection. Older men are not unbreakable, nor do they have all the answers. What it does mean is resilience. The ability to remain composed under pressure, the capacity to process emotions without letting them overwhelm interactions, and the willingness to take responsibility for one's actions. These traits create a sense of predictability in a world that is often unpredictable. Predictability, when paired with authenticity, is profoundly attractive. Younger women feel this on a visceral level. It's the difference between being with someone who can hold space for you when the world feels chaotic versus someone who amplifies the chaos through uncertainty or impulsive behavior. One creates calm, the other creates tension, and attraction, often without conscious thought, follows calm over tension every single time. Emotional security also speaks to the philosophical dimensions of human connection. We are drawn to what stabilizes us because, at a fundamental level, humans crave continuity and reliability in their lives. Life is inherently uncertain, and relationships are a microcosm of that uncertainty. A man who has faced challenges, reflected on them, and developed emotional fortitude offers a counterbalance to that chaos. He becomes a safe harbor, a grounding force. This is why, despite cultural narratives that might emphasize youth, excitement, or rebellion, many younger women are pulled toward men who exude this grounded presence. It is a reminder that desire is not purely about novelty. It is deeply intertwined with the need for stability and emotional clarity. And here's something crucial that is rarely acknowledged. Emotional security is not something that can be faked. Younger women are incredibly perceptive to energy. They can sense when a man projects confidence but lacks internal stability. They can see through facades because emotional insecurity is not something that hides easily. It leaks through body language, tone of voice, and decision-making patterns. On the other hand, a man who has cultivated emotional resilience through lived experience communicates a profound sense of reliability without ever needing to boast. This silent strength is magnetic. It creates a space where vulnerability is not risky, but welcomed, where connection feels real and not performative. The consequences of this are enormous. When emotional security is present, younger women can fully engage with the relationship without defensive walls. They can explore their emotions, express their fears and desires, and develop intimacy in ways that are often impossible when insecurity dominates the interaction. Emotional security, in essence, creates fertile ground for growth, not just for the woman, but for the relationship itself. It is the invisible glue that holds meaningful connections together, the foundation upon which trust, respect, and attraction are built. Life will always present challenges. Chaos is inevitable. Emotional security is not just attractive, it is necessary. It is a demonstration of mastery over one's inner world. When a younger woman recognizes that a man has this mastery, it triggers something primal. It signals safety, competence, and the capacity to endure, not just for himself, but for the relationship. This is a profound form of power, one that is often underestimated because it is quiet, subtle, and understated. Yet it is far more compelling than flashy displays of ego or wealth. So, what does this mean for you as someone seeking to understand attraction, desire, or human connection? It means that cultivating emotional security is not optional. It is transformative. It is not a tactic or a strategy. It is an authentic expression of maturity, resilience, and self mastery. When you invest in yourself, when you face your challenges, process your emotions, and develop inner stability, you become magnetic. Not because you fit a certain image, but because you embody a fundamental human truth. People are drawn to what stabilizes and empowers them. Emotional security is the foundation of trust, intimacy, and lasting connection. Without it, relationships falter. With it, they flourish. And here's the closing truth. Attraction is not about superficial games, fleeting appearances, or social status. It is about depth, presence, and the ability to provide a safe, stable space for connection to thrive. Emotional security is the invisible force that shapes desire, the unspoken language that speaks directly to the human heart. If you want to understand why younger women are drawn to older men, start here. Understand the power of stability, the magnetism of resilience, and the profound influence of a man who has mastered his inner world. Because when emotional security is present, it is not just attractive, it is transformative. And that transformation, both for yourself and for those you connect with, is where true power resides. Let's move to the second reason, one that most people never discuss openly, yet it is one of the most powerful forces in human attraction, wisdom, and life perspective. Younger women, whether they realize it or not, are drawn to older men because they carry something that is incredibly rare, experience distilled into understanding, insight, and clarity. This is not about showing off knowledge or flaunting accomplishments. This is about possessing a quiet awareness of life's complexities, a depth that comes only from having lived through trials, mistakes, victories, and heartbreaks, and having reflected on all of it. There is a magnetism in a person who has seen the layers of life, who understands nuance, who doesn't react impulsively to every situation because they have already learned what truly matters. Think about it. In our culture, we often celebrate youth as if it is synonymous with energy and excitement. But excitement without guidance can be exhausting. Passion without perspective can lead to chaos. A younger woman, naturally curious and ambitious, is navigating the world, often trying to make sense of emotions, relationships, and the unpredictability of life. When she encounters a man who embodies wisdom, someone who has lived through experience, is that she has yet to face, it creates a sense of gravity. It draws her in. It is the feeling that someone understands not just the surface of life, but its deeper currents. Older men carry a perspective that is grounded in reality, tempered by reflection, and sharpened by experience. It is this perspective that provides a framework, an invisible guide that makes her feel safe to explore her own path without fear of being misled or dismissed. Wisdom in this context is not a collection of facts or clever sayings. It is an understanding of human nature, a grasp of the subtleties of emotion, a recognition of patterns in behavior that often go unnoticed by those who are still discovering themselves. Younger women are perceptive to this energy, whether they articulate it or not. They can sense the difference between someone who has experienced life and someone who is simply pretending. They recognize when a man's advice, his reactions, and even his silence are informed by reflection rather than impulse. This presence, this clarity, creates an almost magnetic pull because it signals reliability, depth, and the potential for authentic connection. Philosophically, this taps into something fundamental about human desire. We are drawn to those who expand our understanding of the world, who challenge us to think differently, who invite us into a perspective we cannot access on our own. It is not about control or superiority. It is about enlightenment. A man with life experience doesn't dominate a conversation with lectures. He demonstrates insight through questions, through reflection, through subtle guidance that makes a younger woman feel seen and understood. This is the essence of attraction at a level deeper than physicality. It is the pull toward someone who can shape you, our awareness, who can illuminate corners of life you haven't yet explored, who can mirror growth in ways that are simultaneously comforting and exhilarating. There is also a psychological element at play. Younger women are often still forming their own frameworks for understanding the world. They are curious, they are searching, and they are naturally drawn to people who provide clarity without judgment. An older man with perspective offers this not as a roadmap to follow blindly, but as a mirror, as an opportunity for reflection, as a doorway into a broader understanding of life. She is not merely attracted to his stories, she is attracted to the wisdom those stories imply. Every lesson he has internalized, every failure he has transformed into insight, creates an invisible aura of competence and stability. It signals that he can navigate challenges, that he can make decisions grounded in understanding rather than fear, that he can hold a space for her to explore her own experiences safely. And here's the critical point that most people miss. Wisdom is inherently attractive because it promises growth. Younger women, whether consciously or subconsciously, are seeking not just a partner, but a reflection of potential, a guide through the complexities of emotions, relationships, and life's unpredictable path. They are drawn to someone who has traversed terrain they have yet to explore, someone who has made mistakes and emerged stronger, someone whose perspective provides clarity without stifling their independence. It is an incredibly subtle yet profoundly powerful form of magnetism. The pull is not superficial, it is deep. It resonates at a level that touches the mind, the heart, and the soul simultaneously. Consider the contrast. A man without experience may be exciting, e.g., yes, but excitement alone rarely sustains attraction. Impulsiveness, insecurity, and a lack of foresight create friction. In contrast, a man who carries wisdom approaches interactions with patience, insight, and awareness. He does not need to dominate. He does not need to prove anything. He simply embodies a perspective that is rare and valuable. This is why younger women are drawn to older men, not because they want to be controlled or instructed, but because they instinctively recognize the power of perspective. They are attracted to the clarity, the guidance, the reliability, and the depth that comes from a life well examined. Moreover, this is not just about romantic relationships. It is about human connection at its most profound level. A man who possesses perspective can navigate conflict with composure, can communicate effectively even in emotionally charged situations, and can create a space where vulnerability is safe rather than dangerous. Younger women sense this immediately. They are drawn to the confidence that comes from understanding life, not just surviving it. They are drawn to the calm authority that signals a man who knows his values, his priorities, and his limits. And in this attraction lies something transformative, not just for the relationship, but for the growth of both individuals. In practical terms, this teaches a larger lesson. Wisdom is cultivated, not inherited. Life experience is only valuable if it is reflected upon, analyzed, and integrated into a person's behavior, decisions, and interactions. The older man who draws younger women through perspective is not simply older. He is observant, reflective, and self-aware. He has turned challenges into lessons, mistakes into insight, and uncertainty into clarity. This is a force that cannot be mimicked or faked. It is internal, it is lived, and it is deeply magnetic. So the takeaway here is simple but profound. Attraction is not just a function of youth, beauty, or fleeting energy. It is deeply connected to wisdom, perspective, and the capacity to understand life at a level that transcends superficial appearances. When a man cultivates insight, embraces his experiences, and reflects on his journey, he becomes magnetic. Not because he is older, but because he embodies the rarest quality a younger woman can sense instinctively: clarity of mind, depth of heart, and mastery over the lessons life has already taught him. Now let's explore the third reason, and this one is often misunderstood: power and confidence. When we talk about attraction, especially the kind that draws younger women to older men, most people immediately think of material wealth or social status, but true power, the kind that is magnetic and undeniable, has very little to do with money, titles, or appearances. It is internal, it is presence. It is the quiet, steady force of a man who knows who he is, what he values, and how to move through the world with self-assuredness. And this is the kind of confidence that younger women sense instinctively long before words are spoken or gestures are made. It is not loud or aggressive. It is not the need to prove anything. True confidence is subtle. It manifests in the way a man carries himself, in the way he interacts with others, in the calmness he maintains even in moments of stress or uncertainty. Women, particularly younger women, are drawn to this because it creates a sense of safety, reliability, and clarity. It signals that this man is not reactive, that he is composed, that he can navigate life, face challenges without losing his center. And let's be honest, this is rare. Many people go through life projecting confidence that is superficial or performative, but a man who has genuinely cultivated it radiates a different kind of energy, one that is immediately recognizable, even if it cannot be fully articulated. There's a psychological element here that is fascinating. Humans are wired to respond to signals of competence and control. It's primal, it's instinctual. When someone moves through the world with authority, it triggers something deep within us: respect, trust, and yes, attraction. Younger women are often seeking partners who can provide this kind of groundedness, not because they want to be dominated, but because they are drawn to stability that comes from mastery. A man who demonstrates true confidence does not need to speak loudly or act aggressively. His presence alone communicates capability, security, and the ability to face life head on. This presence is magnetic because it resonates with something ancient within us, something wired to respond to strength that is balanced with awareness. Let's consider the difference between confidence and arrogance, because it is subtle but crucial. Arrogance is loud, insecure, reactive. It seeks validation. It demands attention. It often collapses under scrutiny. Confidence, true confidence, is quiet, grounded, and aware. It is rooted in experience and self-knowledge. It is aware of one's strengths without needing to showcase them excessively, and it acknowledges limitations without shame. Younger women are remarkably perceptive. They can sense this difference immediately. Confidence invites connection. Arrogance repels it. And this is why younger women often find themselves drawn to older men. The ATM presence of confidence is both calming and exhilarating, creating a magnetic pull that is difficult to resist. There is also a philosophical dimension here that is worth understanding. Power and confidence are not about controlling others. They are about controlling oneself. A man who is emotionally stable, wise, and self-aware moves through life without being dictated by fear, insecurity, or the need for approval. He has clarity about his goals, values, and boundaries. This self mastery is profoundly attractive because it creates a dynamic where both individuals in a relationship can operate freely without constant tension or conflict over control. Confidence in this sense is not domination, it is liberation. It is the ability to inspire trust, to provide space for growth, and to lead through presence rather than coercion. And this leads to an important point about power dynamics in relationships. Younger women are often exploring independence, identity, and self expression. They are seeking partners who do not threaten that growth, but who enhance it through presence and guidance. A man who exhibits confidence does not compete for attention, he naturally commands it. He does not react with insecurity when challenged. He responds with composure and clarity. This creates a relationship environment where curiosity, intimacy, and mutual respect can flourish. It is this balance of power, the quiet authority combined with empathy and awareness, that creates profound attraction. Moreover, confidence is not static. It is cultivated. It grows from experience, from facing challenges, from stepping into situations where uncertainty exists and navigating them successfully. Older men often possess this confidence, not because they were born with it, but because life forced them to develop it. Every failure, every setback, every difficult decision becomes a teacher, and over time it builds an inner strength that cannot be faked. Younger women recognize this subtly, even unconsciously. They sense that this is a man who has been tested and has emerged resilient. This is far more compelling than superficial charm or bravado because it is authentic. Authenticity combined with confidence is magnetic. There is another layer to consider. The interplay between confidence and attraction is deeply tied to the sense of safety and trust we discussed earlier. When a man is confident, it signals stability. It signals that he is capable of handling challenges without collapsing under pressure. Younger women sense this, and it allows them to explore their own vulnerability, emotions, and desires without fear. The confidence of the older man creates a container for connection, a space where intimacy can exist without chaos. It is this combination of stability and presence that is rarely found in younger men who are still navigating their own insecurities and uncertainties. Finally, consider the long-term impact of confidence on attraction. It is not about the initial spark or fleeting excitement. It is about the depth of connection that emerges over time. A man who embodies confidence becomes someone a woman can rely on, someone she can respect, and someone whose presence she seeks not because of superficial attributes, but because of the power and composure he carries. This is the kind of attraction that lasts, the kind that resonates beyond physicality, beyond circumstance, and touches something deeper in human nature. So, when we talk about younger women being drawn to older men, it is not a coincidence. It is not about manipulation or games. It is about fundamental human principle. Presence, power, and authentic confidence are magnetic. They communicate safety, stability, and mastery of self. They create space for trust, intimacy, and connection. They are the forces that speak to deeper instincts, that resonate with unspoken desires, and that form the foundation of profound attraction. Now, let's move to the fourth reason, and this one often goes unspoken in most conversations about attraction, experience in intimacy. This is a layer that runs far deeper than surface level desire or fleeting physical connection. When we talk about intimacy, we're not only talking about the act itself, We're talking about the awareness, sensitivity, and emotional intelligence that comes from experience. Younger women, whether consciously or unconsciously, are drawn to older men because they bring a depth of understanding that goes beyond what is visible. They know how to connect, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Experience in intimacy is not just about knowing what to do in the bedroom. It is about presence, timing, attentiveness, and the ability to read unspoken cues. It is about creating a space where vulnerability feels safe, where desire and trust can coexist without fear. Younger women instinctively sense the difference between someone who approaches intimacy as a routine or performance and someone who approaches it with awareness and care. Older men, because of their lived experiences, tend to understand the subtleties that make intimacy meaningful. They know that true connection is built on more than technique. It is built on attunement to another person's emotions, rhythms, and responses. There's a psychological truth here that is fascinating. Intimacy, in its deepest form, is not just physics. It is relational, emotional, and even intellectual. A younger woman, still discovering the layers of her own desires, needs someone who can meet her not just in body, but in mind and heart. Older men, through experience, often possess this ability naturally. They understand how to balance intensity with patience, passion with consideration, and excitement with stability. This creates a profound sense of satisfaction, a feeling that she is being seen, understood, and appreciated on multiple levels simultaneously. This is rare and it is magnetic. Think about the contrast. Younger men, while they may have energy and enthusiasm, often lack the nuanced understanding that comes from experience. They may focus on immediate gratification or approach intimacy in a way that is impulsive, unrefined, or disconnected from the emotional context. Older men, however, have learned from mistakes, reflection, and experimentation. They have faced challenges in relationships, navigated emotional complexity, and learned how to create connection without forcing it. This experience allows them to engage in intimacy with a depth that is both satisfying and transformative. Younger women recognize this even if they cannot articulate it. It is felt in the energy, the attention, the rhythm of interaction, and the way presence is offered. Philosophically, experience in intimacy speaks to the broader human need for meaningful connection. Physical desire alone is fleeting. Emotional resonance is what sustains attraction and builds bonds. When a man brings experience into intimacy, he is not simply fulfilling a physical need. He is creating an environment where trust, vulnerability, and exploration can thrive. Younger women, in particular, are attuned to this. They crave the feeling of being fact, only seen, of having their emotions acknowledged and mirrored, of connecting in ways that are multidimensional. Experience allows a man to provide this without manipulation, without pressure, and without pretense. It is authentic, it is rare, and it is magnetic. Experience in intimacy also extends to communication. Older men tend to understand that desire is communicated not only through words, but through gestures, energy, and presence. They know how to listen, how to respond, and how to adjust their approach to meet the needs of the moment. This creates a dynamic that is far more engaging than simple physical interaction. Younger women recognize this subtle but powerful difference. They feel it in the attentiveness, in the consideration, in the balance between giving and receiving. It is this awareness that transforms intimacy from an act into an experience, from connection into something that feels transformative. There is also a critical point to consider about the intersection of experience and emotional intelligence. Intimacy is rarely just physical, it is an exchange of trust, vulnerability, and energy. A man who has navigated previous relationships, who has faced challenges and reflected on his own behavior, brings emotional literacy into the connection. He understands how to navigate tension, how to recognize when to lead and when to follow, and how to create a sense of safety and excitement simultaneously. Younger women who may still be exploring the depths of their own emotional and physical selves are naturally drawn to someone who embodies this balance. It signals competence, empathy, and the ability to create experiences that are both satisfying and meaningful. Another layer to consider is that experience in intimacy fosters confidence without ego. Oh, dare men who have developed skill and understanding through experience do not need to prove themselves in superficial ways. They do not rely on performative gestures or rigid routines. Instead, they approach intimacy with a sense of flow, adaptability, and attunement. This creates an energy that is effortless yet powerful. Younger women sense this immediately, even subconsciously, and it intensifies attraction. This is why the connection often feels magnetical, almost inevitable. It is the combination of skill, emotional awareness, and authentic presence that draws them in. Experience also allows older men to engage in intimacy with respect and authenticity. They understand that the act is not about conquest or control. It is about connection, trust, and shared presence. They recognize that vulnerability is a gift and they treat it with care. This perspective transforms interactions from transactional to transformative. Younger women who may have encountered relationships lacking depth instinctively recognize this difference. They feel the safety, the consideration, and the attention that comes from lived understanding, and it creates a pull that is hard to resist. Finally, consider the broader lesson. Experience in intimacy is not just about physical skill. It is about the integration of emotional intelligence, self-awareness, patience, and presence. It is about creating an environment where connection can flourish, where desire is paired with respect, and where vulnerability is welcomed rather than feared. When a man brings this depth into relationships, he becomes magnetic, not through ego or status, but through authenticity, skill, and presence. This is why younger women are drawn to older men. They sense the richness, the depth, and the capacity for meaningful connection that comes from experience, and they are naturally pulled toward it. Now, let's explore the fifth and final reason, and this is perhaps the most profound: emotional depth and understanding. This is a layer of attraction that is rarely discussed openly, yet it is one of the most compelling forces drawing younger women to older men. Emotional depth is not about being dramatic, nor is it about performing sensitivity for attention. It is the ability to feel, process, and express emotions with clarity and authenticity. It is the capacity to understand not only one's own emotional landscape, but also the emotional world of others. And this is what creates a connection that is deeper than physical attraction, deeper than charm or charisma. It touches the very core of human desire for resonance and understanding. Younger women, consciously or unconsciously, are drawn to men who demonstrate this kind of emotional intelligence because it signals reliability, empathy, and authenticity. An older man, by virtue of his life experiences, has likely encountered challenges, heartbreaks, successes, failures, and profound moments of reflection. Each experience shapes the way he perceives the world, the way he responds to relationships, and the way he engages with others. This accumulation of lived experience translates into emotional depth. The ability to navigate complexity with composure, to respond with empathy rather than reaction, and to communicate with clarity even in emotionally charged moments. Younger women sense this immediately. They recognize that they are in the presence of someone who has not only lived, but has reflected, learned, and grown. This emotional depth creates an environment where vulnerability is safe. Vulnerability is often one of the most difficult aspects of human connection. To expose your fears, desires, insecurities, and true self to another person requires trust. Younger women who are still exploring their own emotional landscapes are highly attuned to whether that trust will be honored or exploited. An older man who embodies emotional understanding signals that he can hold that vulnerability without judgment, without manipulation, and without dismissiveness. This creates a magnetic pull because it meets one of the most fundamental human needs: the need to be understood and accepted at a deep, authentic level. Psychologically, this operates on a level that is often unspoken but powerful. Humans crave connection not just for companionship, but for resonance, the feeling that someone else can truly understand us, even without words. Emotional depth in a man communicates that he has walked through life's complexities and emerged with insight, compassion, and perspective. This is intoxicating. Younger women are drawn to the stability that comes from this depth because it allows them to explore their own emotions safely. It allows them to feel seen, heard, and valued in a way that is rarely experienced with someone who lacks this awareness. There is also a philosophical dimension to this. Emotional depth is not about controlling or fixing someone else's feelings. It is about presence and attunement. It is about recognizing that each human experience is complex, layered, and worthy of respect. An older man with emotional understanding does not impose his interpretations. He listens, he reflects, and he engages in ways that validate the experiences of others. This creates a sense of intimacy that is profound because it transcends superficial connection. It is not about performing empathy, it is about embodying it. And this embodiment is what makes younger women instinctively feel drawn toward him. Consider the contrast with someone who lacks emotional depth. Younger men, often still navigating their own insecurities and limited emotional experiences, may struggle to understand subtle cues, manage conflict, or respond with genuine empathy. In these situations, vulnerability feels risky and connection can feel shallow or unpredictable. An older man, by contrast, brings the kind of emotional literacy that transforms interactions. He knows how to navigate tension without escalating it, how to provide support without suffocating, and how to create space for authentic expression. This creates a relational dynamic that feels secure, empowering, and profoundly attractive. Another critical aspect of emotional depth is the ability to integrate lessons from past experiences into present interactions. Older men have often faced loss, disappointment, and failure, but they have reflected on these experiences and grown from them. This reflection allows them to approach relationships with wisdom, patience, and empathy. Younger women recognize this instinctively. They sense that they are not just interacting with a person, but with someone who carries understanding, perspective, and emotional maturity. This is incredibly magnetic because it fulfills a psychological need for stability and resonance in a partner. Experience alone is not enough. Emotional depth requires insight, self-awareness, and intentionality. It requires the ability to recognize one's own emotional patterns, to take responsibility for reactions, and to respond rather than react. This is what differentiates a man who is simply older from a man who is truly emotionally sophisticated. Younger women, often navigating the turbulence of their own self discovery, are drawn to the latter because it provides a sense of safety, trust, and the potential for profound connection. It is the difference between being with someone who merely occupies space in your life and someone who actively enriches it through presence, understanding, and resonance. There is also an element of subconscious recognition. Emotional depth communicates that a man can handle complexity, not just within himself, but within the relationship. He can hold conflicting emotions, navigate challenges, and maintain composure while still being responsive to the needs of his partner. This signals strength, resilience, and maturity. Younger women are instinctively drawn to these qualities because they create a sense of equilibrium and trust. The magnetic pull is not superficial, it is rooted in the recognition of competence, empathy, and the ability to sustain meaningful connection. Finally, emotional depth transforms relationships from transactional to transformative. It elevates attraction beyond surface level desire, creating a bond that is intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. Younger women are drawn to this because it satisfies a longing for authenticity and connection that is often missing in more casual interactions. They sense the difference between a man who engages in relationships for immediate gratification and a man who engages with intentionality, awareness, and care. This is why emotional depth is so magnetic. It resonates with the core human need to be understood, valued, and connected on a profound level. So, when we consider why younger women are drawn to older men, emotional depth and understanding cannot be overlooked. It is not a superficial quality, it is a foundational one. It signals maturity, empathy, and the capacity for authentic connection. It creates an environment where vulnerability is safe, intimacy is deep, and attraction is sustainable. It is the culmination of life experience, reflection, and self awareness, and it is what makes older men magnetic in ways that go far beyond appearances or status.